What is going on, YouTubes and YouTube affiliated non-YouTube people that are not YouTube itself, but people that are watching YouTube? I don't know, I'm making weird intros lately. Anyway, here's where we left off. Doing the quick recap of yesterday's work. We got our subframe in, our steering rack in, and our control arms are in. So, decent progress. Oh, and we heat wrapped the firewall, which, you know, obviously we did that yesterday too. I did go ahead and I was going to throw the sway bar in yesterday, the front sway bar. However, I wanted to throw an extra coat of paint on it just to touch it up. It's not perfect by any means. I didn't sand it. I just threw a new coat of black paint on it, and I'm just polishing this thing up just so it looks a little bit better. So, to start today, even though it's like noon and I've been doing stuff already, I haven't done anything for the car though. We're gonna throw that sway bar in, and then I did get the last piece that I needed for installing its MPT to -6AN fitting for the back of the head. So anyway, we're gonna throw the sway bar in just to get it up off the garage floor, throw another box away because we can throw the bushing box away for that. Super excited about that. And then we're going to do more stuff. I'll explain in a little bit. So, sway bar first. Let's go. Brace right here, which is actually the transmission brace. So the piece that I built attaches to the sides of this, and there's a big old stud going through the bottom of it. It essentially attaches to this and then attaches to the chassis, and this is what provides your like vibration reduction, is this piece right here. I did get new bushings to replace these two end ones here, and they're these guys right here, and they're made by Level 0 Motorsports. I'll leave a link down in the description. Not sponsored or anything like that. They were a reasonable price. I think I paid 20, maybe 30 bucks for these guys. And I figure, you know, this car is 30, 40 years old. 30 years old? I can't do math. That's higher math for me. Anyway, this car's like 30 years old, so I figure it's, you know, it's always good to redo bushings when you have the chance, and this is the best opportunity to do it since it's all out and apart. So, real quick, I'm pretty certain this is pretty straightforward. Just probably undo these nuts and they should probably come loose. I'm gonna do that, and then once that's done, okay, so the one thing I will say now, if you do buy these bushings, you might want to get longer bolts, because I do not like how this is smashing it down and it hasn't even passed its nylon like lock ring or lock piece yet. So I would highly recommend getting longer bolts for these. I'm gonna actually pull this apart, run down to Home Depot real quick, and just go buy longer bolts real quick, because it is bulging the bushings and I don't like it. It's not sitting right with me. I'm having to put way too much cranking on this, and you know, that could just lead to problems down the line. I'd rather just fix it now, do it right the first time. So I guess another quick trip to get some more bolts. And then 1 trips to the store today. First for bolts, second time for more bolts, third time for chain, because I forgot that I gave my chunk of chain with my Subaru motor to the shop that's working on it, because I just loaded up in the truck and I left it there, and I figured that they would need it to pull it off, and I didn't think about needing it to put the Miata motor into the Rx7. So now that we're done with that, I also had to go to the parts store and go get a throwout bearing, because I completely forgot to order one, and I thought it would be a good idea to change that before I stick this motor in. I test fitted our adapter plate, and I kind of just lined the starter up by eyeball. Didn't like fully align it up, but like did the best I could. So I measured, kind of at least hung it over and stuck a Sharpie there and kind of just marked how far out it came, and then using the cutout on the transmission adapter plate, I kind of just use that as my width lines and kind of just drew a little circle here. So I'm gonna just chop that out real quick with an angle grinder, and we should be able to test fit this up and see if it fits. Whew. Today has been the day of running to the store. Okay, so we got the transmission all cut out for the starter to fit up, which I'll show you the exact fitment once it's all done. If I haven't already, I don't remember if I did or not, but there's a little cut I made out of it, which slides in pretty well with the adapter plate by itself on there, and so should be working when I put the motor on there and bolt it all up. So next up, I need to address the fittings, which is actually the reason I waited till today, even though there's, I guess, other reasons I had to wait till today, which was like the throttle bearing. So coming back to it is we have this water neck on the back of the head, and this is for a coolant reroute. So if you aren't familiar with Miatas, they were pulled out of an east-west facing engine or a front-wheel drive car is where these motors originally came from. And when they did that originally, the water exited the head through the back of the motor and entered it on the side up here. On this side? Yeah, right here. Oh, right here. Anyway, so I relocated it. This is a Kia Cephia water neck and an adapter plate, so you can run like your heater core hoses and stuff like that off of the back from, I think, Bell Engineering. Not sponsored or anything like that. Just I've had this piece for a while. So anyway, what I now need to do is I need to change all these little fittings to the appropriate ones. So we're going to leave this one, which is the stock coolant sensor. I don't know if I'm going to need it or not, but we're going to leave it right where it's at. This guy right here, which was for an aftermarket coolant temperature sensor, I'm going to actually be moving to this port right here. And these two are going to be changed out to AN fittings. So before I can move this one to here, I actually need to pull it off, because if you can kind of see back there, huzzah! Okay, so as you guys just saw, we got the water neck hooked up, we got the ports changed over to the proper side, and we even capped that other extra port that's back there. The reason for capping this little port down in here is this actually runs over down to your oil cooler stock thingy, which I'm going to be deleting this later. Anyway, to give you kind of a brief explanation, planning to use this port right here to feed the turbo, as opposed to the, what did it used to come off of? It used to have one and one. One used to run to the back, one used to run to the front. Where did that back one go? Whatever. Anyway, this is going to feed the turbo, and then this guy right here is actually going to be a special one, which I will explain a little bit more in depth, but to kind of give you guys a quick, what this does is I'm going to actually be using this for like a expansion tank or a swirl pot type system for the cooling system. And so this is going to basically be the bleed port. It's probably going to be the highest port on the block itself, because I think the radiator is actually going to sit lower than this. So I'm going to vent this over to basically like an extra can, and that will help bleed the system, which I will just explain more of that at a later time when we actually set all that stuff up. So this is just in preparation for that. So if you guys are wondering what the ports are for, that's what they're for. So now that we got the ports all set up, the motor's more or less basically all ready to go. What now needs to happen, pull it off the stand. I need to change out the rear main seal because I did get another one. It is a little leaky, so why not do it while we have the maintenance here. Throw the flywheel on, throw the clutch, pressure plate on, slip the new throwout bearing into the transmission, and then we can make them all friends and stick them into the car. Leaving off from last night, I did end up getting the clutch on and the clutch assembly, so that's all good. We threw on our adapter plate with the old ring behind it, and the reason I used the old ring is because A, it's got the mounting point for the dipstick, and 2, it actually covers up some of the side ports, which just makes me feel more comfortable. I've gone ahead and thrown all the hardware, the Maverick Motorsports adapter plate included. So all the Allen keys. So there's 3 on the bottom. They're the inset ones. And then there's 2 big old bolts up top. And then there's another big old bolt over here. Where is it? Right there. Right there. Right there. Anyway. And then I've attached my starter. So I'm using a 2nd gen starter. And the reason for that is because it's smaller than the 1st gen starter. And the only difference really is how it mounts. On the 1st gen, you will actually be using this hole too, which this one, as you can see, it doesn't line up, and that's just normal. So you just end up using this one right up here, and this one on the bottom. And I might have to go swap this for another 5mm longer bolt, but we'll find out later. That might be okay. Who knows? I went to Home Depot to go get the right size bolt, and then I walked out with a thread pitch that was slightly too large because somebody put it in the wrong bin and I didn't check it. So shame on me, but also shame on that person. I hate you. You suck. So pretty much last things to do is I gotta throw the new throwout bearing into the transmission, put the clutch fork back into it in the little boot, and then we can slide the transmission onto the back of the engine and it's ready to drop in once it's all bolted up. I am human. I make lots of mistakes all the time, especially when doing new things. I did, for the ball that the clutch fork sits on is supposed to be spaced out too to compensate for the extra thickness from the adapter plate. So just simply grab 2 washers. I don't know if you can see it there a little bit. Kind of see it. Yeah, there you go. You can see the 2 washers in there. Anyway, you throw the 2 washers on that and then just thread it back in. Not too big of a deal. So with the magic of editing, I'm gonna reinstall this piece and put all this back together. And voila! With the power of movie magic and video editing software, the transmission is reattached and fully assembled. So another thing to note is if you keep this little back plate right here, the one that comes on the factory Miata motor, which also allows you to mount your dipstick tube right here. There's a nut and it comes really close to your slave cylinder. So chop the nut, and we're using a slave cylinder from an NA Miata, which I don't know, that's what the instructions said to use. We spaced out our spacer, or we spaced out our clutch fork with 2 washers. Showed you that earlier. The only other thing that I had to go do was buy some more bolts, and that's because I needed a 100mm bolt for one of the ones where the Rx7 has its starter that goes through. It's one of the mounting bolts for the adapter plate. You need probably about an 80mm or a 90mm. I'm using a 90. It sticks through a little bit. You could probably go down to an 80. You'd probably be fine, but it's not really a big deal either way because it sticks into an area where there's nothing there. Shouldn't be a big deal. The rest of them are pretty much like 30 and 35mm bolts. So, and the thread pitch is M10 by 1.5. So I hope that helps any of you guys that are like trying to source some bolts. I've already gone through the hassle of doing it myself. So hopefully you guys can learn from my many trips to Home Depot to get the right bolts. And when I say many, I mean many. A lot. Twice. A lot. Okay, so I'm gonna go try to hunt down all of my transmission bolts, my motor mount bolts, and get prepped to stick this thing in the car. And then we'll do that. Okay. It's in. Voila. This is super exciting. It's actually fully mounted, which means we can move on to doing all the other little things that need to be done, like running new fuel lines, doing an oil cooler setup, doing the power steering setup, doing everything else that just needs to get done. I'm just super hyped on how this looks. It came out super good. We are going to address a few more things. Obviously, there's a lot more to address. You know, still needs everything else. But this is a huge step. It's in for the last time. I don't have to pull it out again, I think, unless for some reason I actually do. But it looks like there's plenty of room on both sides. Looks pretty level. Looks pretty even. I'm genuinely super happy about this. This took a lot longer than I really expected it to, just because I had to make 5 million runs to the parts store between yesterday, last night, and this morning. My lesson to you guys, and I need to learn this myself: organize your bolts. I spent most of my time looking for bolts, and for the flywheel. I could not find one, so I ordered ARP bolts. But guess what? As soon as I went to go put the flywheel on, I found the last one. It was sitting on the flywheel, not on the motor. I don't know what I'm thinking. Super tired. I'm gonna go shower, clean myself up, clean up this garage a little bit afterwards probably, and just do some stuff off camera that, you know, isn't really interesting to you guys. So thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. I super appreciate it. Subscribing will make this build go faster. So subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. I want to see 200. We're getting there. I'm like 15 people away from 200 right now as of making this video, which by the time I release this video, it could already be at 200. I don't know. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Peace out. I'll see you guys next time. Do 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 do